the young and the restless spoilers ever since Summer Newman's abrupt departure to Milan in the wake of Alison Lanier's final episode on May 2nd, die-hard young and the restless fans have been left reeling, hearts pounding and imaginations running wild. After Sally Spectra and Chelsea Lawson both exited Marchetti on the very same day, Summer's urgent business trip sounded a little too neat. Almost as if Genoa City's resident mother and mogul in the making were being shepherded off the canvas for some truly dramatic storytelling. But now that whispers of a classic soap opera disaster have started to surface, it seems that Summer's Italian getaway could be more than a simple fashion industry sojourn. My insiders, who have never led me astray, hint that Summer's flight from Milan might vanish over the Atlantic, leaving Kyle Abbott and their precious son Harrison grasping at straws and praying for a miracle. Picture the scene: Harrison, barely old enough to understand the concept of time zones, waking every morning convinced today will be the day mommy returns. Then, instead of her warm embrace and soft reassurance, he receives a tear-choked call from Victor Newman telling him that the jet carrying his mother never arrived. The camera would linger on Kyle's hollow eyes as he tries to explain to his son that mommy's plane fell off the radar, searching desperately for words that could soothe the child's soul. Meanwhile, back in Genoa City, Phyllis Summers would crumble at the news, her screams echoing through Newman Ranch as Nick collapses beside her, grief-stricken and rendered helpless by the sudden loss of his beloved sister-in-law. It is exactly the sort of heart-wrenching material that cements Y&R's place as daytime television's reigning queen of melodrama. But of course, soap opera logic demands twists on top of twists. Just as the world mourns, clues will emerge that Summer's disappearance was not a tragic accident but part of a far more sinister scheme. Was someone on board whose loyalty lay not with the Newman-Abbott alliance but with a shadowy enemy? Perhaps someone determined to weaken Kyle's claim to Abbott Enterprises? Or might Summer herself have discovered a shocking secret during her time in Milan, one that could unravel not only the Newman empire but also expose corruption within the Marchetti fashion house? Imagine Summer, stranded on a remote Mediterranean isle, piecing together cryptic messages hidden in a designer's sketchbook, all while evading mercenary pursuers hired to keep her knowledge buried. Each cryptic telephone call she manages to make back to Genoa City would heighten the suspense, a breathless whisper to Audra Charles or Mariah Copeland, uttering something like "They're coming for me, don't trust anyone," before the line goes dead. Back at home, Nikki Newman and Jack Abbott would form an uneasy alliance, pooling their resources to launch a transatlantic search party. They'd enlist the help of P.I. Scott Granger, who, against all odds, tracks Summer's last known location to a dilapidated airstrip outside Milan. The tension would ratchet up as Victor, whose steely resolve rarely shows cracks, stands at the edge of desperation, pacing in the Newman's private jet's hangar and gripping the cold metal railing, muttering to himself that he will not fail his granddaughter, or his daughter-in-law, again. Meanwhile, Harrison, caught in the crossfire of adult anguish, finds a small comfort in the loving arms of Claire and Adam Newman, whose own tangled emotions over Claire's guardianship share poignant parallels to Kyle's turmoil. Each bedtime story Adam tells Harrison would be laced with the hope that Summer will return, even as he silently wrestles with his own doubts. The juxtaposition of a child's faith against the adult's creeping despair could create some of the most evocative scenes Y&R has ever produced. As viewers hold their breath, guaranteed bombshell revelations would begin to surface. Did Summer stumble onto the Marchetti Company's clandestine dealings in counterfeit luxury goods? Could her insider knowledge have been deemed too dangerous by profiteers willing to go to any lengths to protect their bottom line? Or, in a classic soap twist worthy of Genoa City legend, might Summer's disappearance turn out to be a self-imposed exile after uncovering a betrayal so profound that she felt compelled to vanish, hoping her absence would force those she loves to atone? Whatever the truth, daytime television's most devoted audience will be glued to their screens, dissecting every snippet of dialogue for hidden meanings and speculating wildly on social media threads. Fans will scour the episode promos for the slightest hint, an ominous shot of a jet's blazing contrail, a panicked text message from Summer to her best friend, or Victor's haunted stare as he flips through her last known email. And when the moment finally arrives, whether Summer is found alive, bruised and determined to bring her enemies to justice, or tragically proven lost but leaving behind a cryptic clue that this is far from over. Y&R will have delivered another tour de force of soap opera storytelling. So, buckle up, Genoa City aficionados. Summer Newman's Milan mystery promises to be the cataclysmic, Emmy-worthy event we never saw coming but cannot look away from. In a genre built on cliffhangers and broken hearts, this saga could redefine the stakes for every Newman, Abbott, and anyone else caught in its wake. Proving once again that in Genoa City, no plane simply disappears without leaving explosive consequences in its turbulent wake. The reverberations of Summer Newman's presumed death would strike every corner of Genoa City like a seismic shockwave, toppling pillars of strength, shattering fragile hearts, and forcing each of its most prominent residents to confront a future they never imagined. Yet among the turmoil, 4 lives stand out as those most grievously rent by her loss. Kyle Abbott, young Harrison, Phyllis, and Nick, Summers, and Victor Newman. Kyle Abbott, once the picture of determination, the rising heir poised to secure Abbott Enterprises for the next generation, would find himself stripped of all certainty in a single, devastating moment. The steady partner who stood by Summer through corporate battles and personal crossroads would now be left to shepherd their son Harrison alone, wrestling both with his own grief and the crushing pressure of single parenthood. No longer would his mornings begin with Summer's reassuring smile or end with her laughter echoing through their hallways. Instead, he would rise to a hollow quiet, haunted by the knowledge that his little boy's world has been torn in two. Will Kyle cling ever more tightly to Claire Newman, his late brother's widow turned surrogate mother to Harrison, as an ally and confidant? Or will the relentless burden of his loss drive him into brittle isolation, pushing away even those who only wish to help? In the crucible of grief, Kyle's every decision, boardroom maneuver or bedtime story, will bear the weight of her absence, and the man who once thrived on conquest may find himself outmatched by the simplest acts of compassion and care. Harrison Abbott, no more than 5 years old, yet already acquainted with heartbreak and upheaval, will reel beneath a storm of confusion and fear. To a child, death is an abstract shadow until its icy hand reaches close. To lose his mother in such a shocking, inexplicable fashion threatens to unmoor him entirely. Will Harrison retreat into himself, constructing an impenetrable shell of silence as he wrestles with questions too painful for his small voice? Or might the tragedy bond him more tightly to Claire, who will step into the breach as the de facto matriarch of his fractured family? Picture his tiny hand slipping into Claire's as they navigate a world without Summer's guiding presence, every tear shed, every stifled sob, a testament to the resilient yet fragile nature of innocence tested. In the echoes of Summer's last lullaby, Harrison will search for solace, and Genoa City's most tender heart will either break or bravely carry on in her stead. Phyllis and Nick Summers, the doting aunt and adoring husband whose loyalty to family borders on fierce devotion, will be plunged into a paroxysm of denial and rage. Phyllis, who once wielded cunning guile in pursuit of her own happiness, will find herself undone, clawing at hope even as the evidence mounts. I can see her refusing to accept that her beloved niece is truly gone, combing through Summer's emails, dispatching private investigators to every shabby Milanese airstrip, begging anyone who will listen for a glimmer of proof that the plane never nosedived into the abyss. Meanwhile, Nick, who has borne witness to Phyllis's darkest schemes and her most generous sacrifices, will stand at her side, shoulders squared yet eyes hollow with terror. As they cling to each other, their grief will become a furnace of desperate action, rallies at Newman Ranch, mass media appeals for information, relentless calls to embassies and airlines. In their union of anguish, they will become a force of nature, refusing to let the world forget Summer's name until she is found or the last ember of hope flickers out. And finally, towering above them all in resources, reputation, and sheer willpower, Victor Newman will unleash every tool at his disposal to reclaim his granddaughter. The indomitable patriarch who once brokered hostile takeovers and survived assassination attempts will now confront his most personal battle, the preservation of family itself. In the gleaming hangar of Newman Enterprises, he will pace beside the very jet Summer was meant to return on, ordering search parties to scour every inch of the Atlantic and Mediterranean from satellite to salvage vessel. No expense will be spared, naval contractors, private divers, international authorities, until Summer is found, or his empire crumbles in the search. Yet beneath the iron facade, Victor's heart will fracture anew each time a lead grows cold, each time a report is retracted. The man who once shattered rivals with a single signature will find himself powerless against grief's corrosive tide, praying that fate yields a living miracle. Across Genoa City, as whispers of the tragedy spread from Newman Ranch to Chancellor, from Abbott Enterprises to every corner of society, the aftershocks will echo in every boardroom meeting, every whispered prayer, every sleepless night. In the space Summer leaves behind, each of these four souls will grapple with choices that test their bonds, their convictions, and their resilience. Whether they emerge reforged by sorrow or irreparably crushed by the cataclysm is the question that will grip fans and define the next seismic chapter of The Young and the Restless.